Australia currently has a critical gap in our air and missile defence. And with China currently building more missiles, more nuclear weapons, and more military power, are we ready for war?
The nuclear arms race is no longer theoretical.
China is equipping itself with more nuclear missiles.
China's nuclear arsenal has more than doubled.
A rapid, large-scale build-up.
The country is rapidly expanding its nuclear capabilities.
It was a top-secret Chinese nuclear weapons test.
We are really in the middle of a historical nuclear expansion.
This expansion is happening so fast, and it's been obscured by secrecy.
Declassified proof that China's building hundreds of new missile silos and rapidly expanding their nuclear arsenal.
I think there's no debate that China's overall nuclear buildup is quite alarming.
And with China crowned as the largest navy in the world, the largest military build-up since World War II, right here in our backyard, maintaining the status quo for Australia simply isn't an option. Does Australia need to seriously consider better missile defence? I'm Mel Pikos, and today we're talking tactics. China's nuclear build-up. China is building up its military at a scale that we haven't seen in generations. Its navy is expanding, its missile forces are becoming longer ranged and more sophisticated, and its nuclear arsenal is growing rapidly. In August 2025, Reuters reported that China had accumulated around 600 nuclear warheads, with the Pentagon estimating that number could exceed 1,000 by 2030. It's now believed to have the fastest growing nuclear arsenal in the world. And adding to that, the recent dummy nuclear ICBM test that China fired into the South Pacific was a wake-up call to Australia.
It was a very deliberate choice of the People's Republic of China to send that dummy warhead into the deep southwest of the Pacific. It was also about signalling to us and to the Pacific Islands the kind of capabilities they have.
China's capabilities have now been shown to be able to reach Australia, and that was a dummy warhead. The next one that comes our way might be armed. Well, we also saw China not too long ago circumnavigate Australia, presumably mapping the sea floor and trying to get a gauge of where the likely points of hiding submarines and whatnot.
That was a very powerful demonstration that they have the reach and the capability to circumnavigate our continent. And I think we need to take that seriously.
If China went to war over Taiwan, Australia would be drawn into the conflict. US facilities in the region, including Pine Gap, would mean that an attack on Australian soil is inevitable. We are in the war, whether we like it or not. Australia's missile defence. To protect against incoming missiles, Australia needs air and missile defence. And to be fair, we do have some of that. It's fairly limited and designed to protect specific forces and locations, not the entire country, but let's take a closer look. NASAMS give Australia a mobile, ground-based defence system against threats including aircraft, drones, and cruise missiles. But it isn't designed to intercept ICBMs or other very high-end ballistic missile threats.
The truth is we effectively have no ground-based integrated air and missile defence. And what that means is our limited ability to intercept either incoming rocket or drone fire is our Hobart-class air warfare destroyers, of which we have 3. Now, they would have to be in the right place at the right time, and it would have to be the right sort of munition that was incoming for them to be able to protect, and we remain really dangerously exposed.
The Hobarts are Aegis-equipped air warfare destroyers. They use the SM-2 missile for long-range air defence, and in the process of integrating the SM-6, which expands that capability, including against a wider range of aerial threats and some ballistic missiles. And while the RAF is a formidable air force, it can't intercept ballistic or hypersonic missiles shot at Australia. What needs defending? Australia is enormous, and our population is relatively small. We can't realistically defend the entire continent, which leaves us with the question, where should we actually put our missile defences? We need to think about defending the network that allows Australia to defend itself. And I think that there are 4 priorities. Number 1, submarines. HIMARS Sterling in Western Australia is already home to Australia's Collins-class submarines and is being expanded to support our future nuclear-powered submarine fleet. And on the other side of the country, Osborne Naval Shipyard in South Australia will eventually become one of the most important defence industrial sites in Australia. If you're an adversary looking for a target, these facilities are going to be pretty high on the list, which makes them obvious candidates for layered air and missile defence. Number 2, air bases. The second priority is Australia's major air bases. Places like Amberley, Tyndall, Darwin, Edinburgh, and Williamtown. Our aircraft are only useful if they can actually get off the ground, and an adversary doesn't necessarily need to destroy every F-35 we own. They could attack the runway, fuel storage, ammunition facilities, or aircraft shelters. Protecting our air bases could be just as important as buying more aircraft. Number 3, ports, fuel, and logistics. Third are the things that keep the military moving. Military logistics hubs. Australia's geography is both our greatest advantage and one of our biggest vulnerabilities. We are surrounded by ocean, which makes it difficult for an army to reach us, but it also means that an enormous amount of our military and economic activity depends on ports and shipping. And the ADF depends on fuel to operate. So protecting a fighter base while leaving its fuel supply vulnerable doesn't make much sense. Number 4, command, radar, and communications. The final category is less obvious, but potentially just as important. These are the nervous systems of the Australian Defence Force. If an adversary can disrupt our ability to see what's happening, communicate with our forces, or coordinate a response, they don't necessarily need to destroy every ship and aircraft we own. It might be tempting to put missile defence batteries around Australia's major cities like Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, and Canberra, and protecting our population centres is obviously very important, but missile defence systems are expensive and limited. So Australia can't realistically put them everywhere. We need to prioritise the targets that are most critical to our ability to defend the country. The goal isn't to protect everything equally, but to make sure the most important parts of Australia's defence network can survive an attack. The upgrades we need. Okay, so we've decided what locations we need to protect, but what capabilities do we need to defend them? The first thing to understand is that there is no single weapon that can defend Australia from every threat. A drone, a cruise missile, a ballistic missile, and an ICBM are completely different problems. We need a layered system with different weapons designed to deal with those different threats. First, I'd buy more NASAMS. Expanding the mobile air defence layered around Australia's critical facilities. Next, Patriot missile batteries. Patriot is one of the world's most widely used advanced air and missile defence systems. It can engage aircraft and cruise missiles as well as some types of ballistic missiles. For Australia, we wouldn't cover the entire country with Patriot batteries, but they would provide a higher end layer of air and missile defence around our most important military facilities, the bases and infrastructure we absolutely cannot afford to lose. Third, we should continue upgrading our naval missile defence. Our Hobart-class destroyers already provide a powerful air defence capability, and future upgrades could give Australian ships a greater role in ballistic missile defence. The advantage is that ships can move, allowing them to contribute to an allied missile defence network wherever they're needed. Then there's HIMARS, our long-range strike. Here's where missile defense gets interesting. We don't necessarily have to shoot down the missile. We could destroy the launcher instead. Australia is already operating HIMARS, and long-range weapons such as precision strike missile could give the ADF the ability to strike targets hundreds of kilometres away. If we can identify an enemy missile battery, we could destroy it before it even fires. Maybe even with a B-21 stealth bomber if we can get our hands on a few. Then there's the cheap layer, counter-drone systems, electronic warfare, and guns. If an enemy sends a swarm of cheap drones at an Australian base, we need cheap ways to defeat them. And finally, the big one, ICBM defense. These weapons launch into space, coast through the vacuum of orbit, then re-enter and drop its warhead onto a target using gravity. None of Australia's current missile defense capabilities can protect against these. The US has a dedicated system designed to intercept ICBMs. It's called Ground-Based Mid-Course Defense, and it uses a network of satellites and radar to track an incoming missile before launching an interceptor that attempts to destroy the warhead in space. Even this system isn't foolproof, but it does give the US a dedicated layer of protection against a limited ICBM attack. Only a handful of other countries have systems capable of even attempting to intercept ICBMs. Russia has a strategic missile defense system around Moscow, and countries including India and China are developing increasingly sophisticated capabilities. Should Australia build its own ICBM defense system? It would be great, but probably not yet. A system capable of intercepting ICBMs would be enormously expensive, and even then, it wouldn't guarantee protection against a sophisticated nuclear attack. I'd rather see Australia focus on defending against the more likely threats, like drones, cruise missiles, and shorter range ballistic missiles, while relying on the US for strategic missile warning and deterrence. The real defense, deterrence. Australia is never going to be able to defend every kilometre of coastline, every city, and every military facility from every possible missile. It's just not going to happen. The smarter approach is to build a layered system around the things that matter the most. But an important limitation to all of this is that while missile defense can reduce the damage from an attack, it can't guarantee that Australia will never be hit. We also need to focus on deterrence to stop missiles coming toward Australia before they are even launched. I've previously argued that Australia doesn't need its own nuclear weapons, but we do need stronger conventional deterrence. AUKUS will eventually give us nuclear-powered submarines, but I think we also need capabilities like the B-21 Raider to help fill the gap. For a long time, Australia's geography has kept it far away from conflicts, out of reach of most other countries. But as tech improves, the globe is shrinking and distance isn't the safety net it once was. It's time we added a new layer of defense. So what do you think? Is Australia's missile defenses up to scratch? Where would you position NASAMS or Patriot missile batteries around the country? I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this video. But that's it for today. I'm Pikos, and we've been talking tactics.